The 5 films you are about to see were transferred to videotape from 8mm Cine film. They were shot by Mike Cliff with a single handheld Yashica 8T3 camera in the 1960s and were rightly acclaimed at the time, being accompanied by synchronised reel-to-reel audio-taped commentaries and backed by the Foden Motorworks Band conducted by Mike's grandfather, Fred Mortimer. Sadly, these audio tapes were lost, and although the cinefilm to video transfer has lost some of its original clarity, we hope that the replacement commentary and Foden's brass band backing from the original pressings will help to recreate the atmosphere attained by the original product made over 35 years ago. Those were the swan song years of the British motorcycle industry, gradually dominated by the introduction of the lightweight competition machines. By the beginning of the 1960s, Ariel had ceased production of their famous HT5, and the BSA Works trials teams were being equipped with C15, B40 and Victor unit construction singles to replace the B32 and B34 Gold Star engines. The Barnon Motorcycle Club was formed in Egypt in 1944 by serving military personnel, who, after demobilisation, continued their motorcycling hobby in civilian life by establishing branches of the Barnon in various parts of the country. Our first film was shot at a close-to-club trial held by the Altrincham branch at Moss House Farm, Millington. Most clubs held informal events of this type on pocket handkerchief courses, generally outside the usual September to March trial season, with observed sections suitable to tempt even the novice rider to have a go. My Ariel HT5 was a popular machine amongst the 500cc competition bikes of the day. Club members Paul Sanford and Jeremy Lees prepare an X-Phil Carter 500T Norton. The trial soon gets underway. Here's Bob Clare on a 197 James Commodore. The observed sections were identified using club members' names. Here's a 250cc Dot ridden by John Yates. It's a brand new bike out for its first trial. He's followed by your dark-haired narrator in XWD khaki and DR boots. Another 250cc Dot, a very popular trials lightweight made in Manchester. And here's another, older 197 model. In hindsight, the naming of this section proved prophetic, for it spelt the end of the day's sport for one competitor. A broken headstock bolt on his 197 Greaves put young Edward Banks out of action for the rest of the day. But what can you expect with a riding number like that? On now to Stevie's step, and here's Stevie having a step. A second attempt proved even worse. Maybe I should try a sidecar instead. Competitors covered several laps of the 12-section course before a midday break, and again afterwards, but this time in the reverse direction. Here's Harry Henstock riding a rigid-framed 197 Francis Barnett. Bob Clare gives John Ward some idea of the layout of the next observed section. No doubt the eagle-eyed observer will notice that involuntary dab beneath the trees and dock him one mark. Peter Glanville rides another elderly Francis Barnett, but with the necessary care. John Ward is followed by young Jeremy Lees on another of the HT5 aerials. It looks too easy, but dry conditions can be deceptive. Round and round they go, lap after lap. Up the climbs, down the descents. Here's young Peter Davenport on a 150cc Triumph Terrier. And Jeremy Lees again on his HT5 aerial. Compare the light weight of the older rigid-framed Francis Barnett with the new state-of-the-art fully sprung Dot. On the climb out of Potter's Pit, my throwaway exit is followed by Harry Henstock, displaying a more sensibly controlled performance. Dave Birch is riding his 250cc Francis Barnett, and Peter Glanville will have to watch those marker tapes. Crossing them could cost him 5 marks. As competitors complete their required number of laps, the observers begin the job of adding up their scorecards to determine the results. At this point, some of the riders practice the art of wheeling. It escalates into a contest between John Ward and Dave Birch. But you can take things too far. As the section markers are taken down, our cameraman was persuaded to sample Bob Clare's Villiers engine James, and once he'd got it on the move, decided that there were worse ways of spending a summer Sunday afternoon. Well, maybe. The Barn-On, like most other Cheshire Centre ACU affiliated clubs, organised a series of 3 reliability trials during the year. Each November, February and June, an event would be held in the Lymm and Millington areas just south of Altrincham. These events started at the Poplar Cafe on A50, opposite the site now occupied by Truck Stop 2000, and covered a 12-mile road circuit connecting 5 groups of observed sections. Competitors were required to cover 3 laps of this course before finishing back at the start point. Route cards and riding numbers are collected from the organisers, and competitors are dispatched in riding number order at 1-minute intervals. All machines are examined before being allowed to start to ensure that they comply with road traffic and basic safety requirements. We'll follow one of the riders to the first group of observed sections at Green Croft, encountering unexpected hazards on the way. The section observers will score each rider's performance on a 1, 3 or 5 basis, with 0 for a clean feet-up performance. although it doesn't look as if there'll be many of those here today. And conditions seem set to get worse as time goes on. On now to the second group of sections, where Jock McBean is the observer for a couple of subsections amongst the trees. The tight turns and sharp climbs catch out most of the entry. The best effort seen here was put up by rider number 21 on a dot. Several riders, including number 30, managed to foot their way through for 3 marks. This group of sections, known as aquabatics, contained about 12 subsections in steep-sided woodland surrounding a small brook. Bob Whittaker acts as one of the observers. Many riders were caught out by this steep tree route. Number 41 on a cotton makes a spirited attempt, but just fails, and Bob Whittaker has to dock him 5 marks. Further into the woodland, riders tackle the streambed sections, where many riders forfeited 3 marks for footing. Best by far was Eric Adcock on his works dot. Despite the summer sunshine, conditions underfoot were extremely sticky in places. Here's Eric Adcock again, making things look easy. On now to Moss House Farm, Millington, where these man-made hazards were the result of sand excavations by contractors busy building the Thelwall Viaduct for taking the then incomplete M6 motorway over the Manchester Ship Canal. A stalled engine puts this Triumph Tiger Cub out of action, and Win Armsden docks him 5 marks. Whereas number 37 makes a good attempt, losing 1 mark for a dab. He's followed by Peter Walker on a Villiers-engined Ariel HT framed special. Here's Ron Armsden recording sound on tape to provide an original accompaniment to the silent 8mm Cine film. Number 41 again on the cotton. He needs 2 prods on the climb. And here's Eric Adcock once more, now wearing his barber jacket. Not everyone found it so easy, especially this DMW rider. Although the next 2 competitors, numbers 47 and 51, made clean performances. The next man, number 50, is riding a 7E Villiers-engined James. Now for a spirited climb from a 200cc Tiger Cub. Club member Bob Clare gives advice to one of the riders. And we eventually move across the fields to Booth Bank, where dot-mounted number 21 just manages to clear the section before having to use a steadying foot. Here's John Ward on a 250 Greaves, fitted with a Villiers 2T twin engine. And young Edward Banks losing marks on his cotton. Libby Furness notes it all down on her score sheet. And here's Dave Birch on a 250cc Francis Barnett. More steep drops, and this looks all too easy, until you realise that this rider actually went the wrong way. The next rider shows the correct route. It's Peter Walker on his 250 Villiers Ariel. Observers make use of a gap in traffic to have lunch. Back at the Sandhills, we'll find one of the big 4-strokes. Can you identify it? I think it might be a 350 AJS. and cotton again. Number 24 gets a bit offline and pushes out. Number 75 on a Greaves gets away with one dab, and the last man makes a good feet-up performance. Ken Ousby, acting as backmarker to close the course, finds his 350 Royal Enfield a bit of a handful. Back at the Poplar Cafe, Tony Yeomans loads up his 250 Dot onto the pickup, and eventually everyone heads for home. Having concentrated on solo trials events, the next film, shot on the 24th of November 1963, showed the Sidecar outfits in action. The Sidecar class, never as numerous as the solo trials competitors, was sparsely supported in the Cheshire and North Western centres, and many clubs stopped catering for them in open-to-centre events. By the mid-1950s, only Jim Sandiford Sr., Jack Salisbury, Peter Wraith, John Emerson and a few others were active in this area, but by the end of the decade there was a resurgence of interest, for which the Barn-on Club held this event for sidecar outfits only. The start, as usual, was from the Poplar Cafe on A50 at High Lee, and the event attracted 17 entries, of which 2 were non-starters and 5 retired before completing the course. R. Godfrey from the Wirral 100 Club tows his 500 matchless behind the car. Most outfits were, to a certain extent, home-built specials, using mainly 500cc engines of either BSA, Ariel, Norton, AJ Matchless or Triumph manufacture. However, Eric Adcock has decided to try his hand with a 250cc Dot. His passenger for this brief excursion into the sidecar class was Steve Kenworthy, who eventually competed with some success on a 500 Ariel outfit of his own. The Mountfield brothers have brought the BSA on which Sam Seston won the 1960 Scottish 6 Days trial. Tony Bisbee from Dronfield is partnered on a 500T Norton by Mike Chambers from the Manchester 17 Club. Mick Greenhalgh, in his Albert RN pullover, is passenger to Eric Castle. They're both from Stockport and compete with a 500 Ariel engine in a BSA frame. They set off across the car park, where pools of recent rain give an indication of the damp conditions likely to be met around the course. Eric Adcock and Steve Kenworthy were both well-known solo riders at that time, with Eric riding a work-supported Dot since before Adam was a lad. This should be a novel experience for both. After all, with 3 wheels it can't possibly fall over, can it? R. Godfrey and D. Hampson get the all clear from the starter and set off. Meanwhile, Peter Wraith is assuring an inquisitive scrutineer that his 500 aerial is road legal, and it has got a silencer somewhere. Out on the road, we'll follow one of the crews to the first group of 3 sections at Greencroft. Drivers will attempt these again at the end of the course. The Checklin brothers from Bolsover find it tough going, and while they extricate their 500 BSA twin, other competitors assess the problems. Meanwhile, a young lady from Stalybridge is just about to ponder on the wisdom of taking part. For Anne Dakin, it's her first taste of life in a trial sidecar. Well, don't just stand there, woman. Get out and push. I'm glad to say we had better luck in the next section, before heading off for the 8 subsections at Aquabatics, where the layer of autumn leaves brings our Godfrey's 500 matchless to a halt. This particular set of sections begins in the stream bed, from which our BSA A7 twin rasps its way upwards. A side saddle manoeuvre copes with the extreme camber, but we lose a mark for a quick dab in the next subsection. On the opposite bank of the woods, Peter Wraith and Harry Breland show the close teamwork that was to gain them victory. Back in the stream bed once more, crews were faced with a sharp turn up the bank and round a tree. Getting it right at the exit point from the water was the key to success. Unfortunately, on this attempt we didn't. Competitors were required to cover 3 laps of the main groups of sections, and several successful rides were eventually recorded here during the day. But not, on this occasion at any rate, by the big matchless. Further upstream, the Wraith-Breland partnership are having another good ride. Trevor Wilkinson and Bernard Milnes negotiate hidden rockery on a featherbed-framed 500T Norton outfit. Roy Rutherford from Ford's Halewood plant is riding another special with a Triumph twin engine in a Greaves frame. If I remember rightly, he called it a Corsair. Wonder where he got the badge from. They make it out of the stream, but require help to get them on their way to the next sections at 3 Ponds. D. Heslop and H. Hodge from the South Liverpool Motor Club eventually have the same problem with this rather neat-looking 500 aerial outfit. Tony Bisbee and Mike Chambers find hidden obstacles, but survive so far. They too find trouble awaiting them, and the noise of an angry 500T persuades this young lad to run for cover. Over at Booth Bank, Eric Castle and Mike Greenhouse coordinate their efforts to good effect. However, the Wirral 100 pair on the matchless lose momentum on the adverse cambered exit and suddenly find themselves unable to cope with too much grip. Well, you know the old saying, a matchless out of hand will land 2 in the bush. Ron Bradshaw no doubt remembers the famous Wednesbury girl on Jukebox Jury. I'll give it 5. crews wisely take a good look at each hazard, with a view to avoiding the fate of the Mountfield brothers. The famous BSA WOF 50 is finally retrieved from the undergrowth by a team of helpers. Sam Seston and Harry Nash would have been highly amused. Neville Hankinson and Bob Jones from the Manchester 17 club cope well with their BSA, on the ups, downs, twists and turns, until a difficult tree route catches them out. Got the rhythm wrong there, Bob. He still plays on drums with the Smoky City Jazz Band to this day. Messrs Preston and Brooke have the same problem with their 500 Triumph Twin. So Peter Wraith tries a different line, but to no avail. However, they get their act back together in the next section and make it look like a main road. Reg Stubbs wonders if his job is really necessary, until Eric Adcock capsizes in unexpected fashion. Never mind, Eric. The factory will let you ride solo again next week. Over amongst the gorse bushes, the Star Twin Special is in full flight again. But even frantic wrestling with the gorse results in a momentary stop. It's no use trying to claim a 3. The observers have all met your sort before, lad. The duo from the Triumph Owners Club are having more trouble with the awkward canvas on which grip and stability were at a premium. It's all so extremely trying when the masters of the art make it look so simple. Eric and Mick seem set to be among the elite few with their aerial competition engine, but there's no doubt about this next effort. You won't get away with less than 5 marks for that, my boy. As the crews head off back to Greencroft for their final hazards of the day, the Booth Bank observers compare notes. At the finish, those with any energy left clean the worst of the mud from their machines, and there's plenty of it. There's a BSA Gold Star engine somewhere under this lot. Roy Rutherford hands in his riding number to Jock McBean and looks happy enough, or maybe he's just glad it's all over. There is the usual post-mortem as crews swap tales of alternate success and failures, and curiosity on the performance of the 250 Dot. Mick Greenhouse, with obligatory fag, wonders if Eric is going to abandon his solo riding in future. For the record, the winners were Peter Wraith and Harry Breland, who lost 65 marks. Eric Castle and Mick Greenhouse lost 95. Myself and Ann Dakin lost 141, and the Checklin brothers 156. We all gained first-class awards. When contractors moved on to the club's scramble course at Millington in 1960 to excavate for the underlying sand, the earthworks provided the trial section shown earlier. When excavation finished, the topsoil was replaced, graded and grassed over. The previous good scrambling terrain was lost, and instead the club promoted a one-off mountain grass track event. Gradually, the paddock area filled up with a variety of machines. The sidecar outfits of the day were traditionally powered by British-built 650cc vertical twins, unlike the solo machines, which used high-powered single-cylinder engines similar to those used by speedway riders. This scrambles outfit may be at some disadvantage on a course primarily intended for specialised grass track machinery. Dennis Wingfield from Chesterfield adds oil to the BSA primary chain case. The close affinity to speedway machines is clearly apparent here. Many riders favouring the robust Jap engine in specially made frames of lightweight and minimum top hamper. For ease of transport, many solo machines are only fully assembled after arrival at the course. From the back of what looks like an Austin A35 van comes this bike with a BSA C15 engine. Riders must soon have their mounts ready to present to the machine examiner, to be passed in time to join the pre-race practice session, and John Ward is soon busy at the task of checking that machines comply with ACU competition regulations, which also cover safety helmets. Now for a look at a couple of superb grass outfits, built for high speed and fast cornering. This one, number 115, has twin Amel monoblock carburettors. Are they changing engine sprockets to suit today's course? The second almost identical machine is 116, here being fuelled by its almost identical driver. Could they be brothers? Unfortunately, I don't know the answer. From this van's registration number, the rider may be from the St Helens area. In the mid-1950s, a pair of XWD DR boots cost 5 shillings. The paddock area is now filled with riders' transport and their machines for today's event. Club members have roped off the course, on which the solo riders will compete anti-clockwise and the sidecar crews in a clockwise direction. The clerk of the course is about to make a final inspection in his 105E Ford Anglia, and Ken Morris begins to call riders out for the first practice session. The solos will start on a long uphill straight. At the top they will swing left for 50 yards and then begin a left-hand sweeping descent and short straight to turn sharp left and begin another lap. So, with the course marshals in position, let practice commence. By now, spectators are beginning to arrive at elevated vantage points for the first of the solo qualifying heats. Results from these several preliminary heats will determine the lineup for each of today's solo finals. Sadly, no entry list, programme or results have come to light to help in identifying the riders or winners. Maybe individual riding styles or cherished riding numbers will enable you to solve the riddle as the first final gets underway. We'll watch the start of the next race from the top bend. As number 23 takes the checkered flag from Gordon Wharton, we find that there are other solos lining up at the start. However, we'll wait until the marshals and lap scorers have changed positions in readiness for the first of the clockwise sidecar events, as 6 outfits line up for the start. The second driver of this next pair in the green jersey is the late great Jack Matthews. As we follow number 14 round the top bend, watch at the bottom of the hill as 115 drifts down into the starting straight. Mike Cliff catches him on 3 consecutive laps. The next pair look to have the iron-barrelled 650 Triumph Thunderbird engine much favoured as a basis by the Sidecar boys to develop as a dope-burning power unit. Number 45 powers upwards, but on the next lap is overtaken by Jack Matthews, riding number 144. Next time round, it's Jack's turn to be overtaken by the flying 115. Gordon Wharton shows the last lap flag to the passing crews, and our camera catches number 116 taking the honours. In the next sidecar race, the initial order is 115, 116, 11 and 144 Jack Matthews. By this stage, 116 seems to have established a lead over 115. Number 11 now leads the rest of the pack. Dennis Wingfield's Scrambles outfit is followed by number 9 bringing up the rear. As number 115 hurries past to begin his last lap, number 116 waves Jack Matthews past. Could it be that he's already won? We'll never know. Jack Matthews went on to become British and European sidecar trials champion in later years with my former passenger Ray Armstrong, both sadly no longer with us. The Chester Motor Club staged an annual November fixture which attracted spectator numbers far in excess of the 100-plus competitors who returned year after year to do battle with 5 laps of 3 1/3 miles over what the regulations described as mainly moist earth. Surely the annual understatement of the year, and this is it. The unforgettable time and observation trial held at Picton Gorse near Mickle Trafford. This is J.W. Jones from the Broughton and Bretton Club. And here's Ron Scott from Tarporley. He's followed by T. Waring from Wavertree, while Bernard James from the South Liverpool Motor Club drives a 500 aerial sidecar outfit. Entries of up to 120 were split into 3 separate groups, with riders starting at 10-second intervals. These shots were taken during the November 1961 event, when Jeremy Lees and I, riding in the second group, were finding that 3 wheels weren't necessarily a guarantee of stability. Other Barn-On members in evidence were John Ward on a Greaves and Ron Armsden, riding a 197 Villiers-engined Sun. This old right-of-way, joining Upton Heath to Picton Hall, is just over a mile in length. It eventually sweeps downhill to meet tarmac roads, but after 100 yards or so, riders take a second, similar lane back towards the hamlet of Worthing for a further mile, where another surface road brings them back to the start. Harry Hall from Wallasey and G. Smith here from the South Liverpool Club are 2 of the sidecar drivers from Group 3. Lastly, this shot of Bert Foster from Newton Heath, as he starts another lap with his ZB Series 500 BSA. It concludes the 1961 miscellany. So, now you know what the Picton is all about, here's Mike Cliff's view of the 1962 event. There were 120 entries forming 3 groups of 40, and spectators converged for a day's entertainment on this green and pleasant Cheshire backwater. When they depart as daylight begins to fall, there will be not one leaf or blade of grass that doesn't bear the mud-spattered witness to the 600 bike laps from today's Chester Motor Club Classic event. We've drawn an early number and will be riding in the first group this year. My passenger today is Jim Gardner. He and Ken Morris help unload the aerial outfit from the Morris J-type van. Good waterproofing of engine air filters, magnetos and throttle cables is essential to combat the unknown but always deep and wet conditions for the next 15 miles of energy-sapping endeavour. And here we go. Within 100 yards, the encroaching trees and shrubs will reduce the choice of line down to footpath width in places for the remainder of the lane. Edward Banks, on an ex-John Draper 250 Cotton, finds the going very much to his liking. Here we are again on lap 3, to be followed by Bernard James, who has the standard rather than our shorter HT frame wheelbase. Edward Banks again in full flight, and Ken Morris moves his camera to safety. Bert Foster is passengered by road racer Tony McGurk, more accustomed to bump starting his G50 Matchless, and the ZB Gold Star catches him off guard. Jim Gardner seems to be coping well with the exacting demands of Picton Lane, but he'll be glad when it's all over. Like a very tired-looking John Hartle, having a change from the MV Augusta on his 500 Vela set. He made best performance in the observed sections. Eddie Banks went on to make best performance in Group 1 and gets another clean from this observer. Hard-pressed officials take advantage of a temporary lull in the traffic before Bert Foster reappears, with Tony McGurk now safely back on board. He's followed by Roy Rutherford with the Triumph engined Greaves. It's now time for the riders in Group 2. Jean and Wyn Armsden with Bob Clare are regular spectators, and here's Ron riding number 42. C.J. Williams and W.L. Hutchins are followed by H. Parker from Nantwich and Harry Henstock riding his rigid-framed Francis Barnett. Brian Horrocks from the Manchester 17 Club is being chased by John Ward from the Barn On. Peter Stone and M.L. Budden, who takes the high road, while Ron Armsden speeds through on his second lap. Harry Hall from Wallasey takes a leisurely run down to the ford. Three more riders. The last one is Harry Henstock. As John Ward speeds past, we find one rider in trouble. M.L. Budden's BB32 or 34 BSA seems to have run out of sparks. Spectators move to a new vantage point with extreme caution when they feel the coast is clear. On his third lap, Ron Armsden acknowledges the camera, and John Ward is not far behind him. The Barn On members in Group 2 seem to be circulating fairly regularly. Here's Harry Henstock again. And Ron Armsden overtakes a slower rider to avoid losing time penalty marks. The Wallasey duo are still circulating, and here's Peter Foster with young Bob Spencer in or on the sidecar. As John Ward disappears, Ron Armsden goes through on his last lap. Ron made best performance in Group 2. In In the absence of picnic tables along the lane, crockery is kept out of harm's way on whatever comes to hand. Most riders come to grief somewhere around the course, and picking the bike up again adds to the general fatigue. With John Ward now on his way to the finish, here's Jeff Stone on a 500 Norton. The Stone brothers were regular Barn-On members in Cheshire Centre events. Here's Peter Stone on what I think is a 350 or 500 AJS. With Harry Henstock on his last lap, we find Peter Foster stuck with his father's ZB BSA outfit. The machine was ridden in Group 1 by Bert Foster and is having to do 10 laps of the course. They'll have to get a move on to keep within the time limit. A dog with small boy attached moves position. It's interval time again, and as the audience take up new positions in readiness for Act 3, which gets underway while we move back to the start line, we see Pim Williamson waiting for the all clear to begin his second lap. Chester road racer Bill Smith is more used to solid tarmac, and Jem Lees is in a spot of bother with his aerial outfit. An unidentified solo passes by and promotes more spectator traffic prior to the arrival of the next sidecar outfit. It's G. Smith from the South Liverpool Motor Club. Jem Lees again, fighting all the way. He's followed by Eric Castle and Mick Greenhalgh on another aerial outfit. Lost Wellingtons are another of the Picton hazards. Here's Mervyn Edwards riding number 95, and the reappearance of the sidecars once more. G. Smith rolls to a stop. It looks as though his rear chain might have come off. Another outfit, this time P. Bancroft from Stretford. Pim Williamson again on his BSA C15, and Bill Smith next with Eric Castle in hot pursuit. I think Jem's passenger was Brian Longshaw that year. Now a brief shot of Mervyn Edwards, who we next see back at the finish line. Eric Castle is riding 119 next to last man, and finds he still has another lap to do. He went on to win the cup for best sidecar performance. And that's it. Now, who wants tokens for a car wash? If you think this mud-caked aerial outfit looks bad, how about this? However, some machines get a wash down before being loaded up for home. They would have only one more chance to do battle with Picton Lane in 1963, for after that the road became downgraded to footpath status and is now severed in two places by a motorway. But for those of us who rode there, the twin lines of trees on either side of M53 bring back a host of memories. And now, the commercials. We hope the films you have just watched have given a fair impression of the pre-1965 trials scene at club level. It is almost 40 years since Mike Cliff shot the first of them, and as memories fade with the passage of time, this new commentary may contain errors or omissions for which I apologise. Nevertheless, despite the imperfections, I hope you join me in welcoming the film's survival to re-emerge on videotape after all this time.